All right, well, thanks for coming, everybody. This is kind of cool. Welcome to a content jam session workshop. I'm not going to try to be like super official about this or anything, but there are like just a few announcements and everything that I need to go over. First of all, I just want to thank our sponsors. This is to the camera. Just want to thank our sponsor, Music Bed. They're giving away a year subscription for somebody that registered tonight, and we'll do a little giveaway here at the end. And I wrote all of your names down and put it in a hat. I even cut these things up. Had a little craft session today. And cut those up. My name is not in there, but Joe's is. Joe's is.
12 times. Yep. It's in there 12 times.
How many people registered? Maybe like 11. His might be in there about 12 times. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, thanks for coming. This is the first one, and what I want to do is just kind of have these like, hopefully on a monthly basis. I feel like I'm kind of at a stage now where I'm in less building mode and now more like let's do this mode type thing. So coming up, you'll see on the screen, there's some other workshops coming up. Next month is Doug Lee, and he's actually going to be doing a lighting workshop, kind of like lighting for interviews, that type of thing. And it'll be a little bit different. We won't be living room style like this. We'll probably be like gathered around style. You know what I'm saying? That type of thing. So like I said, we'll do a giveaway here at the end for Music Bed. Thank you, Music Bed. And all the other things, I'll put this up at the end too. If you want to register for any of these and register for more giveaways in the future, all of these are here on the screen that we'll put up at the end too, and that you can just scan it and pop it up right there. Also, I just want to make this announcement too, that for creative work, the Video Lab, this room right here, is going to start being available for creative work for free, okay? So if you are working on creative projects, non-paid creative projects, limited to evenings and weekends, this room is going to be available if you're working on like short films, if you're working on like personal documentaries, whatever that might be, this room will be available for you to use at those times as well. So that's just an option. Just keep that in mind for future reference. But I think right now what I'm going to do is we're going to work on switching over this PowerPoint thing. PowerPoint? Sorry, we don't say that anymore. Slide deck. Yes. We're gonna switch over this slide deck, and then Joe's gonna take it away here. So, you know what? Let's do this since we're all here. Let's give Joe a hand. Let's make him feel really awkward. Yeah, Joe. All right. Here, there you go.
Yeah, take this.
Go.
All right.
Oh wait, you don't need that.
I got this.
This is for questions. So this one we'll hand around later. Or now, and I mean, if you want to start with questions, we can do that too.
Well, there will. I wanted to get introductions from everybody. There we go. Yeah, we're going to be talking about trust in the process. Disclaimer: this isn't the cool kids' lunch table at school. So, I think there's maybe a tendency in this line of work. There can be a lot of siloing, a lot of egos, a lot of this is my world, not your world. I hate that. So know that there's no stupid question. If there's different levels of experience, don't feel like, oh, I have a question to ask, but I don't want to ask it because maybe there's other people that are more experienced in the room. There's none of that here. There's no hierarchy, no anything like that. So to Caleb's point with the living room style, I mean, the only actual living room furniture is only being occupied by one person. But if you want to move up, that's totally fine. But through this whole thing, feel free to jump in, ask questions. I don't want this to be like I'm talking to you or presenting. This is just me sharing some thoughts. So before we begin, I would love just really quick. I mean, I know maybe half the people in this room haven't met the other half, but just love a quick, like, who are you? And like, what's your focus in the video film production world? You want to start?
Hi, I'm Logan. Currently, I work at Kello in the Marketing and Creative Services office. I do commercials. I also film and edit the show Kello and Living, the lifestyle talk show. I also do social media, freelance commercial work, pretty much anything marketing and advertising.
I'm Levi. I'm a media strategist at ClickRain, and I moonlight as a wedding videographer.
Levi, did we meet briefly at Queen City? That's right. Yes, right.
Yeah.
I thought you looked familiar.
My name is Caleb, and I have the video lab, and I'm just grateful to be here this evening.
A nice little stick mic. Yeah.
I'm Dylan. I'm a videographer, photographer. I currently work at Daktronics doing video and photography there, and I also do weddings and smaller commercial projects on my own. So.
My name is Michael. I'm the animation director at Lemonly, but I also do some live action direction at ClickRain. I do a lot of weddings too, mostly photography for weddings, and love to fly drone and all things camera.
Sweet.
I'm Luke. I do documentary and brand story and drink LaCroix tonight.
Just tonight, or? Oh, okay. All right.
I'm Kate, and I'm just the organized one with 605 Video Company.
I'm Dennis, and I'm the one that basically stays up way too late and drives myself crazy doing all the video stuff for 605 Video Company.
Hey, I'm Max. I work at 44i Interactive, and I do video editing. I'm a videographer, and I work with motion graphics, fly drone, and sometimes do weddings as well.
This will sound like a little bit like a repeat, but I'm Josh. I also work at 44i
Nice.
as a videographer / editor. And yeah, on the side time, I like to do anytime I can get involved in a short film or, whatever it may be, whether it's a BTS or whatever. I love to do that and get my hands dirty and learn a lot of stuff. So I'm fairly new within the video world and looking to learn more.
Nice.
My name is Brian. I used to manage a team of financial writers for a big newsletter company, and I've had a YouTube channel for about 6 years, just kind of a side passion project.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Bobby. I'm just trying to be like Joe.
I'm trying to be like Bobby. So.
Yeah. Jack of all trade, master of none, behind the camera, host a podcast, shoot a lot of videos, anywhere from documentary to short film to narrative to nonprofit stuff, church stuff, all of it. So music videos,
My name is Dylan. I do a lot of freelance stuff, mainly weddings and music videos, but kind of whatever I can get my hands on, I'll do. So
Nice. Cool. Well, nice to meet everybody. Okay. So yeah, I mean, as the previous title card stated, we're talking about trusting the process. And the subtitle for this could be "Your Dad Was Right." Your dad's advice about the importance of having process. If your dad, espoused those things when you were a kid, he was actually right. I say that because I asked my dad during the pandemic. I was like, "What to you is like a really good day? What means success to you?" And he was like, "I just want things to work." And at the time, I thought, "Man, that's really kind of weird. I mean, you just want the lawnmower to start on the first try? What are we talking about?" But as I've moved away from that conversation with him after a couple of years now, it's like, "Oh, I get it. It's not about things maybe physically working, but it's about having the mechanisms in place so that things can move optimally, even when shit hits the fan, which is going to at some point in whatever field you're in." So for me, having a process and trusting it is the way to navigate that, the way to protect myself from issues of burnout and ego and jealousy of what everybody else is doing, things like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to start kind of high level and talk about the philosophy of process, and then drill down to a couple examples of how that manifests itself, specifically in my context and my work. Another disclaimer that's coming up is everybody's process is their own. It's earned on their own, and it's learned on your own. So I don't want this to be like, here's the rule book, follow this. I hope it's more like, maybe it sparks some ideas within your own context to apply as you develop in your careers and all the different facets of video work that you're in. So, again, we're not cool kids here. Bobby is, I'm not. So it's all right. We have one cool kid. So yeah, my name's Joe. I've been working in video and film for the last 20 years. As an independent filmmaker, I've got a handful of feature films under my belt, some documentaries, short films, things like that. I'm also a business owner. My company is called Passenger Productions, and we are celebrating our 20th year this year, which is insane. Yeah, thank you. My knees hurt, but you know, we've crossed that milestone. Yeah, and it's there. It's almost there. And then I'm also a photographer. I enjoy doing landscape photography, fine art photography that has been finding a market as of late, so that's been great too. So what does that look like on the business side? Passenger Productions works with founders to tell their stories. And it can be startup stories like what we did with Dakota Adventure Supply. Check out that handsome man with the shirt. So it could be founder stories, startup stories, new companies, things like that. Then on the flip side, we also work with larger, more established organizations, looking back in retrospect of founders that are now wanting to have that legacy story. And then, that's dark every time, man. Then we also do nonprofit work as well. This is a piece we did for the Farm and Rural Stress Hotline at Avera, a nonprofit group that works with mental health and agriculture. And then I do independent film work. This is my latest feature that's in post-production right now called Killing It. We wrap production in April on that, and hopefully we'll be ready to be looking for distribution January, February, something like that. So those are kind of, along with then photography, those are kind of the three different spokes of what keeps me satisfied and food on the table. For the most part. That's a blank slide. No, it's not. Okay. So if you would indulge me, I've got just a quick little 2-minute video just talking about my story, the story of Passenger, and some work examples. So is the volume?
I hope so.
Okay.
Optical and falls in love with movies and decides that's what he wants to do with his life. So he takes the next logical step and starts a production company in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. He finds himself with a business that works, films under his belt, high caliber tools, satisfied clients, and brilliant collaborators he couldn't imagine working with when he first started. And despite all this, there's that gnawing feeling that something isn't quite right. Like maybe he missed part of the plot.
And despite all this, there's that gnawing feeling that maybe he missed part of the plot. And begins to reflect on what has been unproductive and what truly matters.
20 years building the business to do that kind of work. So those 20 years couldn't have happened without going through some missteps, some mistakes that all fed into process. So let's just break it down. What is process? And note, I'm not one of those stingy presenters that give you line-by-line slides. You get it all at once, so you're welcome. Yeah, so process, I mean, its most simplest form is just a repeatable series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular end. The fun thing with film and video production is that there's so many different nuances, from pre-production to post to working with crews to logistics to gear to everything else, that there is not one single part of this process or the video production experience that can't benefit from having a repeatable process that you can rely on over and over again. That's the key, though. The second point is that it's typically through practice and hands-on experience. And maybe that's just the way I learn. I'm not sure, but I haven't done well where it's just been theory. Like until I've really gotten my teeth kicked in by a bad experience, or on the flip side, had a really good experience, it's not until those things happen that I'm able to synthesize what happened and then be like, okay, this is how things can be better. This is how I can evolve and so on. And to that point, process isn't static. It evolves, it grows. So if you get to a point where it's like, oh, I think I have things figured out, I think I'm good now, that's a problem. Because I'm 47, and it's like it keeps growing and multiplying the things you can learn and how you do things. And that this belief that there's a point in mind, like there's a destination you're going to get to, especially some of you younger guys, like, well, if I get to this point, then I'll have it figured out or things will be good. That's not true. That's a mirage out in the distance. This is a lifelong journey that we need to get comfortable with. And then, yeah, it can be a tedious process, or the process of developing process can be tedious. But that's something that I think is enjoyable the older I get as well, that it's almost like a puzzle. I think we can get to the point sometimes where it's like, well, just tell me now, what's the answer? How do I do this? It's like I'll have, nephews or nieces who are getting married. It's like, Uncle Joe, what is being married like? Like, I can't tell you that. You have to go through it. You have to experience it. I think the same is true for anything, and especially in this field. So why? Why is this important? This is the big one for me. The first and only real defense against procrastination, excuses, comparison, ego, and then the big mother of all words, burnout, is process. My story is, I started Passenger 20 years ago. I wanted to make films. Didn't really have an inkling or a clue about how to run a business. And we just kind of fell into it. And I realized because I didn't have a process, it was like I was building the machine new for every single project that I was jumping into. And I was moving so fast that I didn't know I was getting burnt out in the meantime. And then the pandemic hit and everything stopped. And it's like all of that stress and that, everything that was being generated by operating a business this way, like just slammed me, like it caught up to me and knocked me down to the floor. And it was really scary because it's like, man, I love storytelling. I love making movies. I love making film. At least I thought I did. But now in this moment, I really hate it. And I don't know what that means. And it really shook me, right? So I took 2 years off and I worked for Think 3D here in town, running their video department, and that was great because they actually specialize in some stuff like this as far as personal development. Got my legs back underneath me, and thankfully that spark came back. That's why I'm really excited to share some of this journey of my process with you guys, because I think there is a way to be sustainable through this, and again, that's process. So I would ask you guys, I don't think there's a lot of talk in the video production world as far as like mental wellness, well-being, things like that. Do you guys feel that stress or that, that feeling of like needing to measure up to what you're seeing on, get on social media and it's just like, oh, cool set photo. Oh, so-and-so's doing this awesome job over here and this and that. And it can really feel like, well, what am I doing? Do you guys feel that? Yeah. How does that manifest in your guys' experience?
The video, sure. The video world moves so fast that like photography for me doesn't move nearly as fast. Like the tech isn't. They say it's changing, but it's pretty similar. Like I can shoot a film camera and it's relatively similar. Mm-hmm. But I kind of stopped shooting much video in 2019 or 2020 and focused more on animation. And animation, there's parts of animation that still move, but Lemonly has such good processes, and they sell the same product that I like had such a good handle on it that it wasn't stressful. Mm-hmm. Photography was the same way, but video, it just kept going beyond what I could keep doing, and in my personal life, afford. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because if I could shoot with what I had and make good stuff, but I felt like I don't have industry standard this or industry standard that, and it there's just so much more things you have to control, like so much more dynamics of like, I have to communicate this to this person has to show up. Like with animation, if somebody, after I did the whole video, if somebody wants a unicorn, I can just make it.
Right.
But if somebody wanted a unicorn in the video, I just can't put it back in, you know?
Yeah.
I need to hire an art department.
Yep.
A lot more logistics, and I just couldn't keep up with it. I'm doing it again now, but like there's so much.
Yeah.
And if I think of it as an overwhelming cloud of too much, it's too much.
Yeah.
But if I try to just focus on what I'm doing right now, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because I had that too, where then like those feelings that you're talking about being, you know, those feelings being overwhelmed sometimes, I would find myself like being like resentful towards the client or towards whatever, you know, whether it was justified or not. But yeah, it's just weird to like how toxic and sour it can turn, like this thing that's supposed to be really fulfilling, and you're doing a service for somebody and really being able to bring your talents to bear on whatever problem is in front of you. Just how that can turn on a dime after a while, you know. Yeah, I don't know if that's anyone else's experience, but.
One other thing I struggle with is like what you said, there's so much content on social media, and I have all these ideas I want to do, and it's just growing, and it's almost overwhelming me.
Yeah.
The only way for me to be less overwhelmed is just to write it down and be like, I'll come back to it another time. Because I have 2 small children, and I don't have any free time.
Right.
So it just keeps collecting and collecting and collecting.
Yep.
And so the creativity is actually becoming overwhelming, and like seeing other people produce.
Yeah.
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 term I've heard for that maybe doesn't fit is analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff coming at you, you're like, I don't know where to go next.
Yeah.
So you just get stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've run into that before too.
For sure. Yeah, that's a big one.
I think another thing too is just imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, well, I don't know if I can actually do that, or they're already doing it. Like, it kind of takes on different forms, imposter syndrome. But like, I think especially in this industry, I think there's a lot of imposter syndrome, and I know I feel that a lot.
Same. Yeah, Bobby, or Luke.
It's Bobby. No, it's funny. I think for me, it's the 2 things that I struggle with is like envy, where you're seeing like, I mean, like I see your like, I'm a big Joe Huber fan, so, but like I see his work, I'm just like, man, I wish that like I could shoot like that, or I can do that. But then the other thing that I struggle with as well is, you know, you have all these expectations going into a video project, because I get to work with like a nonprofit where I get to like write it, produce it, shoot it, edit it, and then send it out the door. And you have all these big expectations that are upfront, and then as you're slowly going through the process, it slowly starts to decline, and then you see the end product, and you're like, oh man, I didn't meet what the standard that I set. So I think those are the 2 struggles, especially like when you look at YouTube and social media, and you see all these like directors and DPs that are doing like such amazing work, and you're just like, oh man, like I wish I could do that. So.
I forgot what I was gonna say, but I think. I was gonna say I remember, like kind of the trust the process piece. Apart from, I think somebody mentioned like the client stress, like that's a real thing. Like you don't want to. I think I really deep down hate disappointing clients, and so it really affects the consistency of my output. And I tend to do things that I regret because I think I got to have it done, and meanwhile they're on vacation.
Yeah, right.
You know,
that
and they could care less. Yeah. But I remember like a really important conversation I had with Brett Bittner before I kind of launched out solo, and he was like, dude, I just want to tell you that it's totally normal when you like come home from shoot days and you get back and you've got this massive project on your desk. It's like okay to feel like crap. It's okay to feel like, oh, this is a lot. But like learning the process of that is like, it's okay. You get back in day 1, you do something. You pick your task. Like I'm gonna comb through whatever. Right. And then you start to build that where you do it for one project and then you do it for another, and you start to realize like, oh, like I don't, even though it's not fun to come home to a big edit. Yeah. You have a process to manage it.
Do you feel like that stress sometimes of not wanting to disappoint the client like carries over into other parts of your life, or?
like how I come upstairs to my family.
Yeah.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it used to affect me a lot more getting started than it does now, where I'm kind of like, you kind of realize that roller coaster isn't really worth it, because at the end of the day, people don't care as much as you do.
Right.
And that's the big thing, is like, I usually cared more about how that felt or looked or delivered than that client actually did.
Yeah, I hear that. Okay. It's good stuff. Thanks for sharing. Next point, as far as why process, related to what we're talking about and what you were just talking about, Luke, the idea that, it's the motor for sustained growth. Like, you're not going to have a longer career unless you have this process in place. And like I said, talking about earlier, pre-pandemic, how I didn't have a process. I can speak to that with 100% certainty that if you don't have a process and you're just kind of jumping from rock to rock, you're not going to make it very far. At some point, the wheels will come off the bus. And yeah, definitely want to avoid that. It's also good because it's a tangible practice that can affect intangible skills like taste. Like, taste is really hard to define, it's just like the thing that, because it's so subjective, but it's like, each person has their own viewpoint of like what's good or what's bad. But I think we've probably all have had experiences where it's like, oh, that's bad. Like, that's just not, this person just doesn't have good taste, and vice versa, this person has really good taste. And I think process is a really good tool or vehicle to develop things like taste. That even if maybe your taste isn't as refined as maybe you'd like it to be at the moment, there's things you can do, practices that over time will elevate that and start to manifest itself in your work. And yeah, it puts proper focus on creative output. So rather than gear, social media responses, everything we've kind of been talking about, it puts one foot in front of the other. So if you do have a massive edit waiting for you, or if you've got fear of imposter syndrome or anything like that, it's like, if you can focus on the process and just do one step, you can start to turn down the noise of all the distraction that really doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. And it's creatively freeing. I think maybe when I was younger, this idea of like process, I kind of bristled at a little bit, because it's like, well, I'm a creative, you can't pin me down, man. And really it's quite the opposite. It's like, if I have those restrictions, anyway, for me personally, it allows me more room to play. And like, I'm a huge Jack White fan, formerly the White Stripes. He's a guitar player. Maybe that dates me, I don't know. But when he records, he only records with like 4 tracks. He puts these restrictions in place, so he has to develop creative workarounds, things like that. So I think there's a lot of upside to the why. So I had this originally written as how process, but that is not good English. So how do you process? For me, a lot of times after every project that I do, regardless if it's for myself or for a client, and this can be done with yourself or it can be done with your collaborators that you're working with, is find that time to get away, sit down, and reflect and document what worked, what didn't. If it's someone that you've collaborated with, that's always a great dynamic, because you can say like, oh yeah, when you were conducting the interview for this documentary and you kind of presented a question this way, I don't think that worked so well. Or here's what did work really well. And just having that, again, it requires that willingness to take feedback, to take criticism, but to really just reflect and then document, okay, this worked, this didn't work. And you might not even be able to identify it right away. It might just be a feeling like, okay, I conducted an interview with this person. Why did that feel not great after it was done? So taking the time to really drill down and be mindful of those moments and the steps that you've been taking, whether it's in pre-production, production, post. Mindfulness, I think, is the key word there. This one I also hated when I was younger, but you have to master your calendar. Same thing, I thought that was very restrictive. Like, I want my day to be as wide open as possible so I can do whatever I want to do because I'm creative. And that's actually the inverse is true. It's like until you can have the self-discipline to be like, okay, I do have an edit that I need to take this step on, and even though I want to be at the coffee shop hanging out with friends or whatever the case might be, I have to do this for this block of time, you know, and chunk it out on your calendar. It's like what I do is when I have post projects in the pipeline is, you know, 4 days out of the week, Monday through Thursday, for 4 hours from 8 a.m. to noon. That's edit time. All my notifications are turned off. Everything, I'm just locked into this. Because what happens if you don't do that, it's all of a sudden like, oh no, this job is due. I have to deliver in 2 days, and I have this massive edit. And so I'm pulling a 48-hour straight day, just, you know, and again, that leads to burnout, leads to shoddy work, and all of the downfalls we've been talking about. So the third step is routine testing across varied mediums. So what that means to me is what I personally love about filmmaking is that it touches so many different mediums. You can write, you can photograph, you can play music, you can, you know, if you're an actor, you could act, set design, you name it. There's so many different disciplines within this. And if you're only doing work in the niche that you're serving right now, it's hard to, it's kind of like the AI model, right? Where it's like you have to feed AI new information for it to grow. It's like if you're not doing that to yourself, giving yourself new experiences, testing out new processes, things like that, it's going to be hard for you to grow in your main chosen niche of filmmaking that you're in. So like for me, that's why I do photography, because if I'm either have a slow time with making videos or films, or if I'm just locked into some client work that, you know, let's face it, some of the work we do is just to feed the kids, you know, and it's pretty cut and dry. It's not real creatively rewarding. Photography allows me to go out and I can still work on composition and exposure and all those kinds of things. Likewise, you know, I play some music and, you know, just working your brain creatively different ways than just what the suspected usual way of making film or video would be is a great way to work out your process. Because then you're going to pick up tips and tricks, whether it's more esoteric type stuff as far as like the approach, or maybe even like physical, actual steps that you might take in your client work or however that's manifesting itself. You know, you can pull stuff from those experiences, and that's the stuff that makes it really, really interesting. Then the last step, and there's more steps in these. I mean, like I said, this is just from my experience, but accountability is huge, especially as we talked about, like reflection and documentation, mastering your calendar. Like if you have nobody that you have to answer to around your calendar, it's not going to happen if that's not part of your, you know, discipline process anyway. So, you know, have somebody that you can check in with. I've got a good friend, a guy that he's a filmmaker as well and a DP, and we get coffee maybe twice a month. Just like, hey, what's going on with these projects? It's just a little check-in back and forth. Because otherwise, you know, it's easy to, you know, whether it's with your calendar or maybe some of these tangible steps that we're going to get into here in a minute, it's easy to be like, well, I didn't really work on that this week, and then that becomes 2 weeks, and then it becomes a month, and then it's like, yeah, I haven't touched it I have no idea what's going on with my organization or my, yeah, the steps that I need to be successful. So, any questions or thoughts, or? That's why, like, anybody throw in ideas, like if you've had some experiences that could add to this, or if you have questions, go for it.
I got to say, first off, I do the same thing with photography because I get burnt out on video, and I'm just like, I'm just going to grab a camera, I'm going to go drive around at sunset and just go take pictures.
For sure.
So I do that as well. But this process of like the reflection and documentation, is this part of every project that you work on? Because for myself, like I'm a video department of one for a big company. And maybe some of the agency people can relate too. When you're done with one project, like you're you're on to the next. You're supposed to be on to the next project,
Right.
so it's
Yeah.
hard to find time to sit down and reflect on.
For
Okay,
sure.
this is how this went. This is how
Yeah.
this went. Is that something you do for every project? You do this reflection?
I do. The past 5 years I have. Prior to that, I never did. But, and I get that, yeah, that can be hard as far as like turnaround time and stuff goes. And this doesn't have to be like hours long, wandering in the woods. I mean, that'd be nice. But, I mean, this can be as simple as pull up the finished video. And it doesn't have to be like the next day. It could be a week or two where maybe you can get some more perspective that you've been able to step away from it. And yeah, just with a piece of paper and pen, watch the video. Be like, oh yeah, I don't like how that turned out as far as how I set up the shot, or oh, I really liked how that turned out, or I liked how this edit played back to back. Why is that? Just jot down those notes. But that is a challenge, yeah, if you're working for someone else especially.
On to the next thing.
Yeah. Is that something you could ask your employer for time to do, or would they
Yeah,
not?
I mean, like I don't need permission to do it necessarily. Maybe it's more of a me thing. It's like,
Sure.
okay, well, like I've got a list of 10 other things I need to do, so it's hard to like block aside that time as part of the project to
Sure.
reflect. It's like sometimes you get done with an edit, you're just like, I don't want to think about this again. Like, I just want to get this out of here. So
For sure.
Just maybe it's more of a personal mental hurdle to get over.
And that, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, I do that for every project, but like I said, it's not always immediately after. Sometimes it might be 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, because it's hard to be like, I gotta watch this thing again, so yeah, definitely hear that. But.
There's some projects that I've shot for work, and I get to the point, so like our turnaround times for a commercial we shoot, it's not very long, a couple hours shoot time. If I don't have at least like a rough draft in a couple days, like they expect very quick turnaround times, and there's sometimes where I'll shoot it, get it done, and get the edit done, and then I'll forget about it until like 2 weeks later, and I'm walking by the TV and I go, well, that got approved.
Yeah,
I forgot I even did that.
Right.
So it's like,
yeah.
Not only do we not, I mean, where I work, there's like no time for reflection. We're doing a million different things, but like, yeah, there's like that mental block in my brain where I'm like, okay, this project's done, forget about it. Like,
yeah,
not really a question.
No, I get that totally.
I think again, we're all in kind of different. I was in house for 4 years, so I totally get like that environment. But like running my own biz, like I have and I don't do a lot of studio stuff, so I'm a lot on site. So it's always like my process has been like I get in the car, I don't listen to music. If it's a 30-minute drive or whatever back from some podunk town in South Dakota, like I'm voice memoing and I'm just recapping. And I'm basically going through like how did my pre-production end up, like how did that actually end up going, from what I planned to what actually happened. Especially like working through interview, what went well, what didn't go well. Even just like gear, like what am I missing in my system that would have made that more efficient? Not as an excuse to spend more money, but just kind of like identifying those areas where you're like, okay, it's the third shoot in a row where I'm tired of using that 5-in-1 in this way and I need this, just like trying to get all that out while it's fresh. Because I think I struggle with remembering how a shoot went or like what I would do differently. Less on, I think we're kind of talking about the edit or like the actual deliverable. But I think just for the process, like the production process, I always try to do like a drive home or a late at night. I get in bed and I just try to jot some notes just because they're so valuable.
Because I've had that too, where like I'll have two projects that are really close to each other, and I'll wrap up production on project one, but I haven't tackled post yet, and then I'm into production on project two. And in my mind, I was like, okay, remember X, Y, and Z on project one for the edit. But then by the time I get through project two shooting, it's gone. Like it's completely gone. So I think that's a great idea. Yeah, to make the physical recording of those notes. So cool. Here's some resources I found that have helped me a lot. First one is a book by Cal Newport, Slow Productivity. I can give you the cliff notes real quick. His 3 main points are work less, and I understand that there's a lot of nuance to this as far as where everybody's working and stuff, so I don't want this to be like, oh, just work less, you'll be fine. Work less at a slower pace with emphasis on quality, like that's your main focus is on quality. And that can look maybe like micro adjustments with some of you guys that are working for in-house at an organization. For me, I had to make some of those bigger changes, or else I would have, I'd be in the field right now that I would probably absolutely hate, and it would be in not a great place because I had to make some major changes personally for this to all work. The second book, The War of Art, this is an older book, maybe you've heard of it. It's written in the style of The Art of War, the old book by Sun Tzu, thank you. And just really good thoughts on process and consistency and what it means to be a working artist in the most pragmatic, practical sense. And then the third resource isn't a book, it's a podcast. It's called the Nourish Podcast. It's run by John Bregel. He used to own a company called Variable in New York in the early mid-2000s, not early 2000s, probably mid-2000s, like 2010-ish. They were doing incredible, like high-level work for all these great brands. And he tells the story that he walked onto set for Nike that they were shooting, and it just hit him. He was like, I can't do this anymore. I hate this. Like, I absolutely hate this. And he walked away from it. And he started this community for filmmakers, specifically for video and filmmakers, to talk about mental health, practices, for process, all that kind of stuff, to make sure that we protect ourselves, we protect our families, our loved ones, so that this pursuit of what we want doesn't become toxic and all-encompassing and devours everything that we hold dear otherwise. So I would strongly recommend that. He's also available for one-on-one coaching. I did have I booked a Zoom call with him 5 months ago, and it was so helpful. So not free, but worth the money for sure. So. All right, so next disclaimer, and I mentioned this earlier, process is unique to each person, so we're going to get into the weeds now of some of my specific processes. Again, this does not mean that this is what you have to do. This is just how I do it, and maybe there's some things you can pull from it and add to your own process. So I want to talk specifically about the first half of pre-production. Let's say you nail the job, you get the job, and maybe if you're working in-house, the brief comes across your desk, or if you're freelance or have your own company, you've landed the client. What I do first then is I'll do an exploratory meeting. I'll try to sit down with whoever the story is going to revolve around. I'll record that conversation. And I try to make it very conversational. This isn't going to be used in the actual piece, but what it is going to do is give me information both on like actual story arc that I want to build, but it gives me an insight into their personality. Like if I sit down with this person and they're really uptight just talking to me with like a small little Zoom microphone on the table, I can probably deduce that they're not going to do great on camera. So then I can start thinking about, okay, well, maybe I don't want to put them on camera. Maybe I just want to record their audio, and then everything will be B-roll underneath, that kind of stuff. So again, the exploratory part of it is the actual factual stuff I'm trying to get out for building out the story, personality, and then, if you're working with a client that's presumably a business of some sort, you get a feel for the culture and the vibe and everything else like that as well. I take all that and I dump it into the story wheel, which we're going to get into next slide. That's the main crux of all this. And I'll show you in a bit, but it just maps out the story arc from start to finish, how I'm going to tell the story, all the story points. And this has nothing to do with aesthetics or how it's going to actually look. This is purely just, if I had to orally tell a story to you, this is how the points would come out. What I'll build off of that once the story wheel is filled in is a proposal that talks about, hey, I understand your problem to be X. This is how we're going to solve it with this story outline that I've made. And then I introduce the aesthetics through a lookbook. And with the lookbook, a lot of times I'll go on to Shot Deck, it's called online, and you can find it's a resource of millions of frame grabs from films, from thousands of films, and you can keyword search lighting, mood, all that kind of stuff. So it's just to give the client an idea of like, well, this is kind of what the ballpark of the vibe is going to be like. I'll also pull stuff right off of other people's commercials or some of my own work or anything like that. Anything that will communicate where we're going aesthetically, because I do not want to get on the backside of the edit, handing it in and then being like, why was this shot anamorphic? Or something like that. I want everything to be lined out, without any doubt whatsoever of what's going on. And then obviously the budget is tied to that. And if you've already sold the job, clearly there's been that discussion already. But for me with budget, I have an Excel spreadsheet that just fills out every step of the process. If I'm working with vendors, if we need custom music made, or if we're using Music Bed to put music in, how much is that going to cost? And I'll just be able to track then across the Excel spreadsheet.
Do you use standard packages to help you expedite the process of
I do. So I know when I'm working with vendors, if we need to hire Grip and Electric or anything like that, I know what their rates are. So those are pretty built in. I'll still ask for, I work with Tracy at Gator Grip, and I have a pretty good idea, but I'll still ask him hey, this is what we need, make sure I'm not off on this. What do you need, type of a thing. And then I'll have the proposed budget and then the running budget mid-project where I can type in the numbers and figure out where we're at, and then the actual budget on the backside. And hopefully, and usually it's in the black. So, and that's obviously just the first half pre-production. There's the whole logistics side on the backside of scouting, everything else, but that's pretty straightforward. So
maybe just a boring technical question. Yeah. How do you handle if you said you pull references from other commercial stuff you see that you like? Mm-hmm. Do you have a way of organizing your, I guess I'll call them references? Do you keep them in a folder on your desktop, or how do you find those references quickly?
Yeah, so each project that I start has its own folder structure, and it's a repeatable folder structure that includes. I'll pull that up once I'm through this deck. I can show you, but it'll have every folder I need for production, for post, and then for pre as well. And then I'll have folders for lookbook is one of the folders, and I'll just dump all that stuff in there. So I know with this project specifically, I just go to the home folder of whatever the project is, and it's all right there. And then you start to build that own library after a while too. So oh, that project I did 2 months ago, there's some similarities between this one and that one. I can grab some of those shots that are still in that folder to share with this new client. So.
I know with me, I'll save something on Instagram, but then I won't organize it, and then I'll be like, well, I know I saw that somewhere. So was it on Instagram? Was it on YouTube? Where did I store that?
Yeah,
something I need to get better at.
And some of that too with on the link side of things, I'll just make a Google Doc, and it's just it's just brain dump. It's just bleh, everything just gets thrown onto that thing, but I know where it's at all times. So. So I mentioned Story Wheel. This is kind of the backbone of everything we do at Passenger. This is based on Joseph Campbell, who famously kind of mapped out the hero's journey years ago. He was an anthropologist that went to all these different cultures all over the world and found out, oh, the stories we tell all seem to have these same beats, right? And his has 13 points to his hero's journey. This has 8. Dan Harmon, who does Rick and Morty, Community, he kind of came up with honing this and making this a little more compact. And so what I'll do is, we'll have that exploratory meeting. And in my head, when I'm having the conversation with this person, I'm asking questions that are related to each of these 8 points. So you is pretty self-explanatory. Who are you? What do you do? It's very surface type level stuff. Where'd you grow up? What was your family like? Things like that. Next step, we get into want. Obviously you're going to know what type of business you're working with. if you're making a business doc. So you're going to have an idea like, okay, I'm working with like Wells Blue Bunny, let's say. Somebody wanted to make ice cream at some point, right? But it's just getting that in their words. Like, what did you really want when you started this endeavor? Was it a family business that you inherited? Was it something you wanted to prove to your dad growing up? Was it something that's rooted or seated deeper in your past when you were a kid? Things like that. Then the next step is go. Joseph Campbell would talk about this in the sense of walking through the door of no return. This door can be chosen or it can be forced upon you, right? So if it's forced upon you, it could be a thing like, I was diagnosed with cancer. Nobody wants that, but you're thrown into this new world. If it's chosen, it's like, well, I decided to go to the University of Michigan for this doctorate program, or whatever the thing might be, right? They make a conscious choice to walk through the door, or they're pushed through the door. Next step is search, and that's them trying things out, right? So it's like, if we're talking in the business context, yeah, we just tried selling direct to consumer first, but we really kind of ate our shorts on that. So then we moved into more of an online model, and then we moved into, so it's that, what are the steps that either the organization or the person made to get to where they are now? Find. This is kind of the tricky part because it seems like they got what they wanted, right? So in the case of the brand story I showed you for myself, I ended up with, great clients, great gear, great relationships, all this stuff. It's what I wanted. This is what I started out to do. But then you realize that it actually cost a heavy price. Like, yeah, you got what you wanted, but you really didn't get what you wanted. Because a lot of times it involves betraying your own sense of direction, your own inner compass, things like that. Then the next step, return. That's where you take this hard lesson that you learned and take, and you either through someone's help, through a mentor, an Obi-Wan type, or your own strength and realization, you start to pick yourself up. And you have that awakening of, oh, I went through this whole process. I thought I got what I wanted, kicked my butt. I lost whatever I lost to get to that realization. I now can take that and return to, whether, again, it's a business scenario, a personal hurdle that somebody's getting over. I can now return with this newfound information, having gone through the fire of this whole process. And then the last step is change. You change after that. So now you're Luke Skywalker. You have the skill, you have the experience, you've gone through the trial, and you can apply that in whatever context that we're talking about. This works for business documentaries, it works for narrative feature films, it works for documentary films. This isn't the only model for storytelling, but it's the one that makes the most sense to me, especially when I'm working with clients, right? And I think this could even be used, some of you guys do weddings and stuff too. I think this could probably be used in that context as well. But like all things with process, it has to be malleable, it has to be flexible, because you'll find that when you're working with business clients, they don't want to talk about the price that they paid. That's like, I don't want to go there. So we got to find ways to get there, or to tell the story by maybe rounding that a little bit. Because at the end of the day, they're paying you money. And as much as you'd like to take them to where they need to go, you can tell them that, you can try to lead them there, but at the end of the day, if they don't want to go there, you're there to serve them. So that's the thing to remember with this too.
So in that case, they found a need or an obstacle, a challenge that seemed usable or okay to talk about on screen.
Right. So like, let me think of an example. Well, I did this for Think 3D, And they were talking about how there was a point in their growth where they really didn't think they were going to make it. They were like one paycheck away from them not being a business anymore. And I really appreciated that they wanted to say that, because it started out with, well, they were working in corporate jobs. They realized that there was a better way to do stuff. They went on their go, they walk through the door, they start this business. It's a new endeavor. They search by trying to sell their services through speaking engagements. That didn't really work. And then they're talking to businesses directly, and it was kind of hard to get footing. But then all of a sudden things kind of take off a little bit, but it wasn't quite in the realm that they wanted to be in, and it kind of backfired on them, so that their cash flow wasn't what they actually needed at the time, and they were on death's door, but then they were able to take all those lessons and jump from there and become successful. So that would be one example of, that manifesting itself in a business type scenario. But I've had other businesses where, in the exploratory interview, I'll ask, like, okay, so you got some success with your business, but what did that cost you, personally, as a business, things like that. And some people just don't want to go there. So that's the creative part then of trying to, can we show that visually somehow? How do we work around that? Or do we just have to skip take? Does find and take get minimized, and we go from search to return, which in my opinion minimizes the impact of the story. Sure. But yeah. The other thing too is, you don't have to start, when your story starts, you don't have to start with you. You can start with take. J.J. Abrams does this all the time, right? His movies start in utter chaos, what the hell is going on? And then we go back. So you can jump in at any point and start the wheel. If you have a longer form project you're doing that requires multiple characters, whether it's on the documentary side or if it's a narrative piece or a scripted piece, each character is going to run through their own story circle, and they're going to intertwine and interact. And Dan Harmon with Community, if you ever watched Community, it's one of the funniest shows on earth. It's scary how genius, because it's an ensemble cast. It's 8 characters, and they each have, in 30 minutes, every character that's on screen goes through this in some way, shape, or form. It's great. So, any questions on that? I feel like a tool like this is very helpful. It takes some time to work and learn. So if you have any questions, let me know. Be more than happy to answer. Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned that you don't have to start from the you. Can you start from literally any box? For example, return. Yeah, you could. You could set up the story so that it opens with a sense of peace or sereneness, or having that maturity, having gone through whatever. You could start with that, that being stated or shown somehow, and then have your character say something to the effect of, but it always wasn't like that. Yeah. It's let's wind it up and then get back to where we started. And you would say with this kind of formula or whatever, the goal is to hit each box within within the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ideally, yep.
Cool.
And there is, you'll find that depending on the story you're telling, they may not carry the same amount of weight. So in most circumstances, it's more of laying the groundwork, and it's not meant to hold as much emotional weight as, say, take or the go, so yeah, it doesn't have to be equally weighted, and that's where pacing comes in with the edit too. So if you've hit your points in the documentary world, what I'll do is I'll fill this out after the exploratory interview, and then I'll kind of reverse engineer it. So it's okay, if I want this person to say something along the lines of, little did I know when I was a kid, blah, 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 I'm going to have to ask these types of questions. But then the trick is when you're sitting down on the actual interview with that person, that they don't feel like you're trying to mine that out of them, to keep it conversational and to keep it, honest, I guess is the right word. Because the other thing I found too is the stories, especially that are a little more emotionally heavy, let me back up. When I first started, I would freelance with ad firms in town. Went on a shoot with a particular ad firm. I was the DP, set up the camera. The person from the agency sits down and tells the subject, we really want you to cry in this video. We really need this to be emotional, right? And it was the most painful thing to watch because this person is like trying to muster this emotion, and it was the most hokey, insincere, piece of whatever. So what this does, however, that I like is you can leverage specifically want with return pair together well. So when I'm talking to somebody or interviewing somebody on the want side, I just did an interview with a gal a couple weeks ago. She struggled with an eating disorder. So I asked, when you were a kid, what did you want? And then she shares those things she wanted for herself when she was on the precipice of falling into this eating disorder, right? So we established that conversationally. Things are flowing. We go through go and search and find and take. Okay, so what did that cost you going through this? And she articulates that, right? Then when we get to return, a great question is, what would, let's call her Anne, what would Anne today tell Anne in the want section when you were a kid, when you started this? And I found it's really, I don't think it's manipulative. I feel like it's therapeutic because a lot of people don't put those connections together in their own life. And for them to have the chance and actually realize that, like, oh, this is a whole journey that kind of makes sense in some way now. Like, as dark as whatever the story may have been through those other steps, if I can plant that seed in want and then have them answer that in return, I typically get really honest, good, powerful results there. So, and it's interesting, like, things pair up on this wheel across from each other. So you can plant seeds with questions, and each one that can manifest itself on the opposite side of the wheel, right? So if, like, you and find are opposites. Who were you when you first started? Find is, okay, you think you got what you wanted. Who were you then? And it's that tension between the two that I think make for an interesting dynamic.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
I don't want to stay on this too long.
No, go for it.
So, like, with this, like, when you're going into an interview, like, do you kind of have this, like, sectioned out and then have a list of questions under each section?
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, the other part of that question is, like, how long do your interviews usually last? Because I feel like sometimes people can get, like, interview fatigued.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
And so I remember I was on a project, a documentary project, and the guy had, like, I think it was like 32 questions, and I was like, my dog, let's get this down to like 12 to 14. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my interviews go maybe, I don't like going past 30 minutes. I feel like fatigue starts to set in after that, for sure. And yeah, so I'll break this down onto a sheet, big bullet point number 1, here's the questions I think I need to get at, telling the story. But I try to have that memorized, and not like verbatim memorized, but at least have a sense of where am I going, what are the main points I need to ask. because I don't want to get so locked into that piece of paper either. So if they say something new or something interesting, that I miss the opportunity to pivot and get somewhere deeper because I'm stuck on, no, I have to ask question number 2, that kind of thing. So I think that's the art with especially documentary interview type stuff, is making them feel comfortable, where it is conversational, where they don't know that you have a plan. And that, again, I don't think it's manipulative, but you're setting the stage and opening the door for them to be honest and to feel comfortable enough to have that trust with you. Because, John Bregel, who I was talking about with the nurse community, he talks about how, the camera isn't a shovel. It's not an excavator. It's something where you can actually see somebody and actually get to a deeper understanding of who someone is. And I think that this plays in well with that for sure. And when subjects do kind of take a left turn, like if I'm interviewing them and they offer something that I wasn't expecting, or is maybe something I wasn't prepared for, the easiest question is just to ask, okay, well then what happened next? Then what happened next? It doesn't have to be this, I think there's this sense that we have to ask these, I'm trying to think of who like a great interviewer would be, but that would really date me. So, but these perfectly crafted questions, like, no, it's just conversation, so then what happened? Well, da-da-da-da, okay, well, what happened after that? And what you'll find too is, like, once you get to the go section and you start asking those what happened next, I'm amazed that most people get to return and change on their own. Like, I've had whole interviews of just asking what happened next, and I never had to prompt any of the other steps, because it just kind of naturally, well, this happens, then the result was this, and then that, and then this, which is really fascinating to me. Yeah.
In those interviews, are you the one? It sounds like you're the one asking. In the interviews, it sounds like you're the one asking the questions. Is somebody else running the camera? Or are you running that camera?
Ideally, yeah. So I've got a couple DPs that I'll work with in those situations, where I'll have them watching the camera and running sound and all that.
And you're always like freelancing, right? You're not. You don't have full staff.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're all vendors that I bring on.
Cool.
So, and it's nice too. Like, you start to work with the same people after a while. So like, what I don't want to do either is be like, okay, everybody set, record. Okay, now be natural. So we just kind of have looks. Like, I'll sit down as camera and sound is, whether they're actually setting stuff up or just kind of acting like they're moving about. And I'll just start the conversation like, oh, tell me about your kids, or what'd you do this weekend, or whatever. And then Dalton Coffey shoots a lot with me, and we just kind of have a look. I'll just look at him, just give him a nod, and he'll just boop, hit it, and then we can just ease into it. When I first started, I had this really bad habit of starting each interview out with, "Who are you and what do you do?" And that is not a good way to foster, because then people are on, they're performing. It's like, oh, we're starting now. Okay, here's my answer. So yeah, it's all about keeping that natural flow. All right. What I can do too is I can send this out to everybody if that's something you guys would like. It's a PDF. So, all right. Okay. Are we doing okay? Need to take a break? Everybody feeling good? Because I got like 4 more hours and that's it. So this is, pre-production side. Just wanted to jump into process on the production side with shooting. Just kind of like what I'm looking for when I walk into a room. Presumably, I'll have scouted the location first. Sometimes that's not possible. I don't know how many times where it's like, oh yeah, we've got a great room you can do the interview in, and it's the conference room. It's always the boardroom, and it's the worst. So this is just some stuff that I've picked up both through experience, and then a lot of this too. Does anybody listen to the Wandering DP podcast? Yeah, so a lot of this comes from him as well. So first thing is shooting into the L of the room. You want to find the corner. It's going to give this sense of more depth than if you're just flat onto a wall, right? So even in a conference room, try to find that corner and work your angles, and that will help give a sense of depth to the situation. That is way too dark. So we're going to skip that one. Next one, Salt and Pepper. Great band from the 90s. You guys, are you Caleb? Yeah. All right. Like What a Man? Yeah.
What a man.
Yeah. Keep going. It's good. So what we try to do then is break up with lighting. So on frame left, you've got light, then the back of his head is dark, face is light, dark. You just want that variation between light and dark as you're moving across the frame. This example here is very linear as far as like chunk of black, chunk of light, chunk of black, chunk of light. It can look like that. It doesn't always have to. It could be dappled. It could be whatever. So this is another example of that. Obviously light, dark, as you move across the frame. Upstage lighting. So what upstage lighting, and I apologize if everybody's like, yeah, duh, we know. But having the lighting coming back towards camera to create some shape and some depth around faces. So in this circumstance, just off frame, we had 2 quasar tubes up high on stands wrapping around their faces. And then the bar had this motivated the light that is actually on the bottles, and the lamp there helped tremendously as well. But always looking for those opportunities. So like, again, let's go back to the conference room. You know, you have the dreaded wall of windows with the long desk right here, right? So you don't want to be on the window side shooting back towards that corner because it's going to be all bright on this side of the face. You want to be on the opposite side, so the dark shadow side is on, you're shooting into the shadow side, and that'll help create some space. What it'll also allow you to do is then you can shift your talent however you need to, so you get that wrap coming around. Whether that's done through having an actual lighting fixture, or if you're just stuck with the windows.
Will you show that to my executive producer?
Yes.
She does not believe in anything other than flat newsletter.
Yeah.
All the pores.
You're right. Well, you should invite her, and then we can have an intervention. You know, like. So next thing to work out is contrast ratio. So really, in my opinion, a lot of being a DP is just having, and this TV, this is no slam on your TV. It's a little crunchy.
Oh yeah, totally.
So this is a little extreme, but I think a lot of what being a DP is just understanding your contrast ratios between dark and light, like what feels natural, what doesn't feel natural. And a lot of that goes all the way back to the process when we're talking about developing your sense of taste. Watching a ton of movies, a ton of shows, photography, things like that. What do you gravitate towards? And then how do you replicate that in your own work? So this would be an example of really high contrast ratio. Obviously very dark on the upper frame, and then more light as we come around this way. This shot pairs with this shot. So this was part of the same sequence. Just wanted to give you a sense then of the larger space. This would be an example of low contrast ratio. So shadow side of her face, you know, the f-stop is going to be, or the stop on the side of her face is going to be more comparable to the actual stop that would read out in the sky. So the invisible hand, again, this is kind of hard. Again, no slam on your TV, Caleb. It's a little dark, but you should be able to see just a little bit of the background wall of the grain silo. So what the invisible hand refers to is this idea that you've manipulated the scene with light, but you really can't, you don't feel the light. The light is there, but it's not heavy. You know, it's not obvious. And this is the trickiest thing for me, and I struggle with this still, is, you know, be looking in the monitor, you get so dialed into what the scene looks like, you get back to the edit suite, like, man, that is not, that looks fake. That is not what I was going after. But to me, this is really where the art of being a cinematographer lays, is being able to develop that invisible hand.
Remind me what that means.
So the idea that a hand has been Like there's been manipulation that's happened with the scene with lighting, but you don't see it, you can't tell. This would be another example of that. So here's the other thing. I don't want to get hung up either on like, well, you know, do you have big lighting kits? Do you work with grip and electric and all this stuff? This was just the open door in the grain silo, right? There's no lighting involved with like external lighting involved with this. It purely is just waiting for the right time of day. And I know that's not a luxury we have very often, but in this particular project, you know, you get it for good, fast, or cheap. You know, it's two of those things. And they went with cheap and good. So we had time to really wait for the time of day for things to develop.
Was that just luck, or you knew that's what the lighting is going to be like
Yeah.
at that time?
So there's an app called the Sunseeker app.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm able to determine where's the sun at what time of day at this particular location. So I knew it would be coming through the open hatch at the time of day that we were there.
That looks lit. That's a really good shot.
Thanks. Yeah, it's just sunlight. Here's an example of the invisible hand with fake lighting. So this is downtown, and Phillips facing west, like we're looking west through here, right? But it looks as if the sun is coming up in the west. Like if you knew where this was, you'd be like, oh, that's weird. The sun's rising in the west. But just off to the left of the window, had a large M18 HMI light, and just blasted, you know, sunlight essentially into the shop. But this is something too where I think in the past I'd get really hung up with, well, she's too dark. We need to edge her out with some other light or whatever. And it's like, no, I think for my own style, like I like more of the natural and the rawness and that kind of feel. So like to me, this feels natural. It feels like the invisible hand. Like you can't really tell that it was lit, I hope.
Is that the only light source?
Yep, that was the only light source we had. So we had the ambient light, and obviously just coming through the windows, time of day. And then you can see the hot spot on the door frame to the left there. So just off there, we had a M18, maybe 9 feet off the ground, angled down with heavy orange gel on to kind of create that warmth, and just raked it across.
The reflected light from the door frame is what's creating the light on the left. It's like the side
Yeah.
of the frame, which is wild that you got that much out of the wall.
Yeah. Well, those lights are awesome. They can kill you, like with electrical output. But yeah, I love them. They're awesome to work with. M18 and Airy M18. And the great thing is, and he didn't ask me to do this, but if you do have opportunity to work with an outside vendor and you need grip and electric, call Tracy Malix at Gator Grip and Electric. He's amazing. So.
Tracy at Grip.
Gator Grip.
Gator Grip.
Yep. Yeah, he's a good dude, and he knows what he's doing and all that. Again, TV's a little dark. Normally you'd see a little bit more on the wall there. You know, we wanted to pretend that through those banisters up at the top of the stairs, there was like a living room or a bedroom light on that was just kind of raking down. And then, again, yeah, there should be some, let me paint this picture for you. There should be like this ambient light just kind of softly falling on the walls as this kid opens the door and does that. And a lot of this too is we had a fixture we brought in, like a Aperture 300 at the top of the stairs. Had an Aperture 300 around the other side of this door, just kind of filling in that back part there. And then had an Edison bulb, so just a regular bulb in the pull down light socket thing in the closet on a dimmer, so we could turn it down and adjust it the way we wanted to there. So not a ton of gear needed. Again, a lot of it was just waiting for the right time of day.
The Edison bulb, you were powering with the electricity already in the house?
In the house, yep.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
So yeah, we had the socket, and then we had one of those socket to two-prong plug converter things,
Sure.
and then ran the dimmer through that, and then was able to bring it down. So point of control is another big thing in a lot of the work we do, and that's simply identifying what can't I control and what can I control. So in this circumstance, I can control nothing other than waiting for the right time of day. And I think, the ideal situation is that, again, you've had the time to scout and schedule and know that, okay, at 7 in the afternoon or 6 in the evening or whatever, that the light is going to be here and we want this shot and we want that guy out there. I can't control anything. If it's raining, if it's cloudy, it is what it is. I understand that that's not always the case. I get thrown in that scenario as well, where it's like you can't, because of schedule or client demands or whatever, I can't do anything with this. I've been in this very exact scenario where just the way things worked out, it was like high noon, just high sun, and it looked not like that. So, but the thing I'm looking for always on scouts and things like that is like, okay, what do I have control over? What don't I have control over? And all this is applicable to every other slide that I've shown already. Like with this, I don't have control over the daylight, but I know that we're shooting west and we're shooting this in the morning. So I just need to beat the sun rising up and blasting the window or the buildings on the far side, because it'll blow that out completely. So just be mindful of those types of things as you create your schedule and whatnot. Motivated lighting is really big for me. It really helps me sell, I think, whether you're actually lighting or not. For example, with this, we've got both lamps in frame and they're on dimmers, so we have them low, we can control them. And these dimmers, you can go on Amazon and get $10 dimmers. They're not much. And the cool thing is with Edison bulbs, if you put them on a dimmer, it's going to warm up the light. It's going to feel warmer, which is always a nice effect. But then what we did for lighting here is what we call like cove lighting. So we took some fabric, it's called unbleached muslin fabric. You can get it at Amazon, a big strip for 20 bucks. You just hang it on some C-stands to make a cove, like a bit of a circle. And we had 2 Aperture 300s shooting into it, really warmed up and dialed down. So, again, that invisible hand type of thing, because you don't want to feel all this light coming back. It's going to feel unnatural then.
On the other side of the wall, you're saying there's like a...
Yeah, so right on the other side of the door frame, there's this cove thing. And if you look closely, you can tell. If you look at this wicker basket thing right here, that shouldn't be lit down there, but it is because we had light coming back. So to me, if those lamps weren't there and you just had this light source coming back, it would feel weird. Where's that coming from? So motivated lighting is always one of the best ways to sell your scene. Same thing, well, that's dark again. We're just going to skip that. But yeah, the idea being that when you punch into your close-ups, even if you need to crank up your, like in this case, the Aperture 300s to get a little bit more light to fall on, in the cut, people aren't going to be like, oh, wait a minute, that's 10% brighter than the previous shot, right? People go with it. So
when you're gelling, you're probably not using a softbox. You're probably always using some other fabric or something.
Yeah, I like bouncing back as opposed to shooting through, because I feel like a lot of times that artificiality can be felt when you're even shooting through a softbox coming right on somebody. So yeah, that's part of my process then as far as production goes. When we're on the scout, when I'm designing the project, these are all things that I want to be asking. Where's the L of the room? Where's the best angle to shoot? Is there motivated lighting? What can't I control? Where's the sun? Which way are the windows facing? Where are the outlets? All that kind of stuff. So.
And in your cove lighting, are the lights facing towards him with the sheet around it, or are you facing are the lights facing the wall and back?
Towards him. So if this wall wasn't here, it would be right there.
Right.
Because if it came around too far, then his front side would be all lit up. Right. So we want to maintain that shadow on the dark side. So, yeah. Any questions? Any other questions? Otherwise, that's all I got.
Questions. I didn't know.
Yeah. No, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah. Sorry. My questions were more about the storyboard and getting it approved.
Yeah, go for it.
There's a process of, getting your shots approved by the client, but then also there's the process of communicating those shots to you work with freelancers or whoever your team is. So my first question is for your process for brand stories, what do your storyboards look like for your client? Are there actual visuals, or is it more of a written storyboard? And then how do you communicate that to the team you're working with?
Right.
So you don't have to like explain it over and over again on the shoot day and maybe not have enough time to do it.
Yeah, so with clients, because I can't draw, like it would just be stick figures, you know, if I was doing storyboards. So the way I present to clients is a lot of words, you know, hopefully in a compelling way, but saying, yeah, this is what it's going to look like, this scene, this will happen. And then again, I'll have that visual lookbook that will pair with that. And I'll even reference in the written proposal, like to understand what I'm talking about, check out image 4 on page whatever of this lookbook. So it pairs together. And hopefully when I present that, I'm in the room with them, you know, so I can walk them through it as well, so they're not just given this thing to be like, oh, I don't know how to interpret this. That's a great question. You had, what was your second? Oh, with vendors then, how to communicate with vendors, yeah. So what's good at this point as far as being older and having like the people that I work with is we kind of have a shorthand with each other, which is nice. We still communicate via email. You know, I'll send the proposal, the lookbook to, if I'm working with a DP, you know, to Tracy. Scout days will involve Tracy, my DP, if they're part of the crew. You know, and we'll scene by scene, location by location. So, okay, here, this is everything we need to think about, you know, and then relying on those people, knowing that you don't have to come up with every answer. So it's like, Tracy, what do you think would work best if we're going for this style? What fixtures do we need? Things like that. So, and, you know, those would be for maybe, yeah, the bigger jobs where we've got a larger crew and stuff, but some of these jobs, maybe it's just 2 of us, you know, and that'll happen over coffee and, you know, we'll figure it out.
Do you mind if I ask another one?
Go for it.
So like at Lemonly, in our contracts, we have different stages of process, and like certain things you can communicate or want fixed in that stage of the process that you can't have fixed at the end. Like say if you want conceptual things change, that happens at one of the first stages of the process, but not after animation's all the way done.
Right.
So like for you, have you had it where a client got something and they didn't expect that in the product, and then they wanted reshoots, and then did your process protect you legally, and then did you just say you can have reshoots, but this is what it costs?
So what we do now, and this was one of those lessons learned the hard way, what I do now is I have them sign off on the proposal and lookbook. And it keeps both of us responsible. So it's like, okay, you're not going to come back and be like, oh, I didn't. It's like, no, you knew. I've clearly communicated. And it's also going to keep me on task of like, okay, this is what we're going for. I'm not going to throw a monkey wrench into this, or, you know, everybody's on the same page and it's pretty cut and dry. Like I said, that was learned the hard way. You know, earlier in my career, yeah, I had circumstances where either I didn't communicate well or assumptions were made. You know, and the joke I made about the anamorphic thing actually happened, right? So we shot this whole project on anamorphic lenses, you know, so you get the cinematic looking black bars on top and the bottom. The whole process of, you know, it was a lengthy review process with the client. They signed off, they were looking at it the whole time, right? It got sent into Kello. Kello's tech called the client, like, hey, there's something wrong with your video. There's black bars on the top and bottom.
Those guys are crazy.
Yeah, no offense to. And then the client called me, like, thinking like something's not right with my video because there's these black bars on the top and the bottom. And then me trying to explain, you've been looking at this nonstop. We were very clear about, you know, how we were shooting and all this stuff. But, you know, they spent a chunk of money, and now it's warranted. I'm not meaning to put down Kello, but like, Kello is an institution in the community, and to some of these, especially maybe slightly older generations, like, oh, well, Kello told me this isn't going to play right on TV, so you did something wrong, you know. So that was one of those circumstances where after the fact, okay, well, let's reflect. And how could we have done this better? It's like, oh, well, let's have them sign off on, nope, this is what.
But you probably didn't have to reshoot that project.
No.
It was functional.
Yeah. Yep. If I recall, I think they had us blow up the.
You had to crop it, right?
Yeah, we had to crop it, which was just like, ugh. But
how long ago was that?
right before I burnt out. No, that was 2016,
Way before.
15, 16, something like that. Yeah, 10 years ago.
I guess I have a question for like your docu-style shoots. How are you structuring your shoot days? So say you have to do interviews with 2 or 3 people, and then you need to shoot your B-roll or your whatever sequences. How do you structure those days so you don't get that? I think interview burnout was brought up, but like shoot burnout. Like how are you structuring those days?
Sure. So what I try to do is, and this works better if you're shooting locally. But what we try to do is schedule the interview first, and then I like to go back and actually cut the interview, and then test the B-roll list that we suggested to what we actually have. So then I can add or subtract depending on what the reality is of what we got in the story. And then it might be a week or 2 weeks later, then we'll come back and just do the B-roll.
Okay, but you have one day.
Yeah.
For myself, I've got like a lot of my shoots. It's like you have one day to do this.
Yep.
Like you have to do everything in one day. So it's like okay, well, sometimes we don't have the luxury of doing. I guess for your projects that maybe you are given one day, maybe you don't do that. Maybe you do.
I've done a lot of those. they're not fun. No. That was so part of all this. As far as like hitting burnout and all that, it was those types of days that really exacerbated those issues for me. And the book, that Slow Productivity, and again, like for me, and I was at a stage in my life where my wife, her career is more established. I'd had some financial success already building up with Passenger. So, and I understand that's a luxury totally to be like, I had to pull the plug and then really rethink through things. And I know that's not everybody's situation. And I would hear people when I was younger say things like that. I'm like, dude. For me, just personally for me, like I had to say I can't do those jobs anymore or else I'm going to not do this anymore. Because like when I very first started, I worked for a company called Nichols Media here in town. They are now bought by Billion. I think they're called Sterling Marketing now, right? I worked for them for a year, and it was just like the loud, obnoxious car commercials, right? Someone's screaming at you, bad credit, no problem. And those were like no consistency to your days. We'd be all over the place, and it was crazy. So I worked there for a year and a half, and then I go freelance, and I started freelancing with these crews, and they would break for lunch, and I was like, what is this? Because at Nichols, we would never stop for lunch. We would work like 10 hours a day straight through the day with no breaks whatsoever. So it's like that kind of stuff too, where, everybody has to weigh their own risk and reward. But I do think there is a point, especially if you're not getting fed, which I'm not saying you're not, but if you're not getting fed or allowed breaks, maybe don't work there anymore. Those are things everybody has to work out. Like, am I willing to risk maybe some stability for some mental stability and bandwidth to be able to pursue what I really want to do? And some people can't, and that's fine, and maybe maybe it's something where if you really are into filmmaking, but your job situation is the way it is, maybe it'd be better to drive truck for FedEx or something where you can come in, do the thing, and then totally unplug, and then work on your stuff the way you want to. I think that's the thing too, as I've gotten older, like there's no one clear path to success. There's a million different roads because there's a million different people doing their thing, so. But I say that cautiously because I know it's kind of like, dude, just quit, man.
All right, maybe one more question, time-wise.
I have one if nobody else does. But Levi, you should be in it.
How do you balance keeping your process and like being authentic to yourself and your brand while also like being flexible enough to what the industry is demanding? Like maybe I think vertical content is stupid and dumb and ugly, but like we live in a world where you kind of got to make some vertical content.
Right.
Like, how do you balance that while staying true?
Yeah, definitely. I think for everybody, there's kind of a spectrum of, okay, what am I willing to be flexible on and what am I just not willing to be flexible on. And I think that's, part of this whole process thing for me in that reflection time is like, okay, I'm not saying this is true, but like, it could be, I refuse to do vertical video. If you own your own business, you can make some of those types of statements that can then help define your own culture and what you're offering clients as well. So there's an upside to that way as far as being able to define your identity and who you are in the marketplace. But trust me, like for the 10 projects or show that I showed that was represented up here, I have 300 projects that are on a hard drive that do not get shown to anybody, right? And that's just the nature of it, because you're serving what the business needs, and like I said, there's personalities involved and all that kind of stuff, and not that the work is bad, but it's just not my cup of tea. But I got to feed my kids, and it's like that Venn diagram. They need a video made. I make videos, and in the middle, my kids get fed. So it works out that way, So the balance for me again is just having gone through that phase of burnout is just realizing, being mindful of, okay, what are those warning flags or those warning signs that I'm going too far into compromising who I am, the work I want to do. So. Might be a little bit of a mushy answer, I apologize, but I do think it is kind of a personal thing that takes time.
All right. Do you want the mic? One more?
If you go ahead.
Mike.
And this one's probably pretty simple for you. I just didn't know I was wondering if you had a production manager, a project manager, and then like a talent coordinator, because like that's a lot of logistics beyond what you're already doing.
Yep. So when prior to my burnout, I had 5 employees. Andrew Reinhartz was my production manager. I love that guy. He unfortunately bought his dad's business. So if you see him on the street, tell him like, "What's wrong with you, man? Go back to Joe." I did have a production manager. For larger projects that I have now, there's a handful of people in town that I'll work with on a freelance basis. I mean, Dort Kuiper is kind of the standby. Knock Thatch does some of that work. I've worked with her before. And if it's a small project and there's enough runway or lead time for me, I'll handle it myself. But it's definitely that type of work that my brain does not love, So.
Because in your process, sorry to say this loud enough, but your process probably has different stages of like at month 1 we do this, month 2 we do this.
Yeah. So it goes back to the spreadsheet that I built.
Sure.
So there's the budget one, there's the talent one, there's the crew one. That lists availability, cost, whatever notes. The such and such talent that's flying in is on this airline at this hotel at all that kind of stuff. So.
Cool.
Awesome. Joe.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah. I think if there's any other questions, we can toss them in probably to that Instagram thread and just kind of, keep firing away there if you have more questions and, want to get the conversation going. Just dial into that Instagram thread. I think that might be a good way to do it, other than like a Facebook group or something. I don't know. Some of us aren't on Facebook. Sounds like, yeah. Okay, I'm going to steal this to HDMI.
Yeah, do it.
Joe, that was awesome.
Thanks.
Hold on. Okay, there we go. So I will be playing, hopefully everything was recording. I will be playing this on the, it'll be on my YouTube channel, but there'll be like a playlist. So if you want to go back and watch this again, you definitely can do that, and get those points and everything. I just want to go back through some of these things. Again, thanks to our sponsor, MusicBed, for this. We're giving away a free 1-year annual subscription. So I'm going to do that here in just a sec, but future reference, this will be kind of shuffling through. Next month, we're going to have Doug Lee, and it'll be a little bit different layout, but he's going to be going through some just lighting techniques, especially for like interviews, things like that. And then December 10th, Colin McKenzie from CMAC Productions. He's going to be talking about like finding your niche or niche, whether, you know, like maybe you want to fly drones, maybe you want to be a DP, maybe you want to be, you know, this or that, whatever, you know, kind of finding your niche within kind of that video realm. And then in January, actually, I'm going to have my buddy Dustin Armstrong from Utah. He's the editor for Crumble Cookie. He's going to be talking about like how they're doing their content that is just blowing up right now. And he's doing the edits for that. He's also a YouTuber and makes incredible like visuals for YouTube as well. So he'll be remote. He's not coming from Utah. He'll be remote, but we'll probably be more like living room style like this for that as well. But so let's draw a name. Oh, I do want to say though, for Music Bed, just for showing up, they are offering 2 months free. So there's a code that'll pop up here, just 2 months free if you want to do that, just for showing up. So that's awesome. Thanks, Music Bed, for that. Okay, I'm going to draw a name here. Now, like I said, I wrote your names down with a pen. I actually wrote these down and I cut them up from the little note cards. So I was like, that was my little craft project for today.
Thank you.
And then the winner of the Music Bed subscription also gets a Video Lab hat. Whatever you want to do with that, that's fine. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But okay, so here we go. I'm gonna mix these up here. And now you do have to be present to win, okay? You do need to be present to win. Here's what I drew right here, okay? This is it. The winner of the first one. Logan. Logan, let's go. All right. Okay. Also, you get this hat. So and all the other names. Yeah. Yeah. You get all the names too. Okay. So we'll chat. I just need some information from you, and I'll send it to Music Bed, and they'll get you all set up for that as well. So
You said first one. What did you mean by that?
First workshop. First giveaway.
Like, are there more giveaways?
There's more giveaways. So each one, I was working on some other sponsors too. Some of them fell through. I'm not going to name names. But the Music Bed, they're going to give away a free annual subscription for, Luke, you stand in front of the cameras, man. Come on now. They're going to give away a free one for each workshop. So make sure you register, keep coming back, and you'll have some more opportunities to win. So you won't be winning another one. Yeah, that would be sweet though. That would be sweet. All right. I mean, feel free to hang out just a little bit longer. You know, there's more bevies in there. There's more snacks. Have a bag of chips. You know, take a water bottle or something with you. But hang out a little bit longer. I'm going to turn some more lo-fi on and yeah, head out. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. All right.